Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Samurai Goddess. The goddess next door takes on kung fu killers in this action-packed martial arts Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Samurai Goddess in paperback and e-readers today. I have a question to ask all these black women out here, especially these black feminists. And that question is, what has feminism done for you? Because when I look at the black community over the last 50 years, it's clear to me that feminism was not beneficial to black women at all. Now, according to some of these black feminists, they are women first and black second. But if they look at the way the white feminist has treated them over the last 50 years, they'll see that they were black first and women last. Because when you look at the way black women are treated under white feminism, they are still second class citizens. And they changed their oppressor from a white man to a white woman. Because when we look at the impact of black feminism on the black community in its establishment of the black matriarchy, it has not benefited your black woman at all. Yes, your black woman was able to go to college and get an education due to programs set up like affirmative action and college grants and other benefits that she gained under the white liberals' welfare state, but she is still the poorest woman in the world, in spite of $40 trillion being spent on her community to improve the quality of life in it. In fact, under white feminism and the white liberal policies of the welfare state established in the 1960s, the quality of life for black people has declined over the last 50 years due to the policies of white feminism and white liberal welfare policies. And because black women embraced those political policies, she thought she was getting an improvement in the quality of her life. But when we look at the bigger picture overall, the quality of life has declined. Because when we look at the impact long term of white feminism on the black community, it is one of the wrecking balls that pretty much destroyed the structure of the black family. And that's one of the big impacts that your white feminism had, because your white feminist told this black woman, one, she was strong and independent, two, she did not need a man, and three, told her she could do it on her own. When we look at this black woman who says she's a feminist, when we go to the Bible that she says that she reads and says that she's a Christian, it tells us a different story than these feminists are telling her. And under that principle, which black people followed through slavery and through Jim Crow, it tells us that a woman needs a man, one, and two, she is the helpmeet and support to a man. And in that role, she can have a functioning and thriving family. And that's what she had after slavery ended. That's what she had after Jim Crow ended. And that's what she had until she embraced white feminism. And she went from having an interdependent relationship with her black man to going on to having a codependent relationship with the white liberal welfare state, which has kept her in a perpetual state of poverty for 50 years. Yes, she has gained power over her economy in her community, but that's all so that white women could exploit her at their expense. Because when we look at the long-term impacts of white feminism, yes, black women gained control over the dollars in their economy, but that led to them being manipulated and used as a tool to be exploited by these white feminists who took programs like affirmative action and used it as a springboard to take themselves to a higher economic level at the black woman's expense. Moreover, these same white women went out here and took a wrecking ball to the family so that they could maintain the values of their family. Because when we look at these white feminists overall, they didn't go out here and leave their husbands. No, they didn't leave their husbands. And they went and stayed in their suburban homes with their husbands and with their children and went on to have their middle class lifestyle, talking about female empowerment, talking about female equality. Meanwhile, telling this black woman she was strong and independent and did not need a man. And because she went and listened to this white feminist who wasn't practicing what she was preaching, She wound up with a broken home with no father in it, and children with no leader to follow and no authority figure to follow. And in these single mother households, these children wound up growing up like stalks to become the Negro children of the corn. And that's all due to your black woman listening to white feminism. Your white feminism was never meant to help black women. Unfortunately, 2 generations of black women have not learned this lesson, nor has it registered in their mind the destructive force of white feminism on the black community. They still believe the poisoned ideas that white feminism was about helping black women, when it was never about black women, even from the early days of first wave feminism known as women's suffrage. Because during women's suffrage, white women like Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott, and many others pretty much made it a point to say that a black woman was not a woman. Even Sojourner Truth, the former slave, said so in her Ain't I a Woman speech way back in the 19th century. And when women like Ida B. Wells and Mary McLeod Bethune went to your women's suffragists to get equal rights for black women, they were rebuffed by these white women. These white women pretty much blew off Mary McLeod Bethune and Ida B. Wells. And Ida B. Wells was fighting hard to prevent black men from being lynched. Mary McLeod Bethune was fighting for equal opportunity in education. Both were rebuffed by your white feminists at the time. So that shows us that when it comes down to women's rights, they are 2 separate worlds, one black and one white. And the white feminists pretty much, they got their equal rights and they got their equal opportunity by piggybacking on the civil rights movement, like many other groups of women who sit there and talk about oppression. However, when we look at your white woman, she is in the most privileged position in society, talking about how she's been oppressed. Her white man has been elevating her to a higher level, more or so than anyone else in society. And when we look at her, she's sitting here talking about how she wants equality. However, when she gets an opportunity at equality, such as electing the first white female president, Hillary Clinton, what does she do? She goes and sides with the same so-called patriarchy she says she's so against and says that's oppressing her by going out to vote for Donald Trump. Unfortunately, your black female, nothing registers in her mind, and she doesn't understand the long-term impact of feminism on her. These white feminists have used this black woman. These white feminists have exploited this black woman, and they have used this black woman as a stepping stone to pushing and perpetuating a gynocentric state at her expense. These white feminists are living a middle-class lifestyle at the expense of the black woman by getting the top jobs at these government programs and the top jobs in many of these public schools as teachers. And they pretty much leave this black woman to get a welfare check while they're sitting there collecting a big paycheck at her expense. Because in all these programs that the feminists perpetuate and talk about helping black people, there's always a white woman at the top of it. She is always there talking about the services she's going to provide for the poor, downtrodden black people. In the same paternalistic way, your white slave master and the white slave master's wife came down to the black masses. She's sitting there collecting big money, living in a nice house, and you can't tell this black woman that she isn't being exploited at the expense of this white woman who was sitting there making money off her, pimping her, and then telling her she's still a woman first and black second, when it's clear by her actions she sees this black woman as black first, a woman last, and a joke overall. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.